Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chicago Salons. Thank you for joining us. My name is Charlie Jett, and we're coming to you live from beautiful downtown Chicago. My co-host this evening is my darling wife, Nancy Church. Nancy?
Thank you, Charlie, and good evening to all of you out there. This is our second on-live salon, and we're delighted to host a world-class violinist this evening. Dr. Elly Toyoda, a native of Osaka, Japan, has performed in major festivals in Asia, Europe, and North America. She holds her bachelor's degree from Oberlin Conservatory, her master's degree from the Yale School of Music, and her doctorate from the Musical Arts degree from Rutgers University. Elly will be joined by contemporary composers and artists who will share their insights with you and perform delightful creations, including a world premiere, solo violin works, a piece featuring birds and frogs from Japan and the US, and a collaborative production of music, dance, and visual art. So let me introduce Dr. Elly Toyoda as she presents an evening of violin performance, musical insights, and discussions with artists and composers. Elly?
So much. And thank you so much, Charlie and Nancy, for having us and for bringing us all here together. I mean, I've been jumping up and down about this summer, this fall, and this beginning of the winter. So I can't believe this is finally happening, and I'm just super, super excited. And thank you all out there so much for joining us tonight and for choosing a Saturday evening to be with us. I promise you won't regret it because I'm joined by the best artists and composers that I know. And I'm so happy and honored to be able to speak with them today with you guys and also to share their creations. So let's dive right into it. So first I want to just introduce the artists and composers. So we have Martin Bresnick, composer. Yes, hi Martin. And then we have Cherylyn Lavagnino. Hello. And we have Sabina Petra. Hi. And then we have Scott Ordway. Hello. And then we have Matthew Duvall. Hello. And then we'll have Lisa Kaplan joining us later. And all right, so the first piece on the program is Tales of Hopper. And I will turn this over to Cherylyn and Martin. It's one of the tremendous projects that I had the honor of being a part of, and I loved it so much. So Cherylyn, would you like to go first?
Sure. So my background as a dancer was ballet, and I had the great fortune of being in Pennsylvania Ballet when they danced all the major Balanchine repertory, as well as the classics. I have to say, as I look back at the work, I know where I've been influenced, among other wonderful choreographers. I formed my company in 2000. A lot of people out of Tisch Dance, actually, because I've been teaching there for over 30 years. In ballet, actually was a chair for a while. And then one of my dancers, in around 2016, sent me a piece of really glorious music, Prayers Remain Forever by Martin Bresnick. And I started working with it. It was absolutely beautiful and a little bit of humor. I got stuck. It started going in a direction that choreographically I wasn't imagining. And my mentor, Phyllis Lamhut, came into the room and in her little dear and wise but screechy voice said, "Cherylyn, you gotta get rid of the music." And I said, no. So I knew that I had to change the music, but I refused to move away from Martin. So I searched through several works and found this beautiful piece, Josephine the Singer. And that was our first collaboration, a piece called Veiled. And then Martin proposed that we do a project together. And he gave me two choices, first Shakespeare and the other an Edward Hopper collaboration. And I didn't dare touch Shakespeare. Too many people have done that too well. So we began collaborating, and we had breakfast regularly in his neighborhood, not too far from my neighborhood. We're both in Chelsea. And Martin, I think we can go back and forth here, but Martin sent me several suggestions of the Hopper paintings. And we collected about 7 that we really loved. And then I said, you know, Martin, I can't work without music. I know you're going to write it, but can you send me some sketches? And it all began there. And then I'll just say one little final thing. It was a real transition point for me. I've always been tremendously music and movement based. But looking carefully at Hopper's paintings, I realized that they were so spare and so essential that a lot of movement was not going to be the right direction. And so I started working from a more dramatic standpoint with gesture and just real human stories that I kind of imagined from the paintings. So I'm going to hand it over to Martin.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Cherylyn. An interesting bit of backstory here is that I didn't know that Cherylyn was looking at my music at all. I happened to just see it on Facebook, and I thought, gee, I think no one has ever choreographed to my music before, and I always felt that there was some possibility there. So I went down to see it. I went down to see what she was doing. She took this piece, Josephine the Singer, which, by the way, Elly Toyoda has made some remarkable performances of and recordings of. And I watched what Cherylyn did, and I was completely delighted. I'd never seen anyone reach so deep into the music to see kind of the inner movement of the music, the inner detail that the music implied, the rhythm, the forward motions, the hesitations, the backward. I was so delighted that that's how I approached Cherylyn. And I said, you know, it's great that you choreographed to that piece that already existed, but shall we get together and do something more interesting, do something together that was fresh and new? And yes, we did agree eventually on Hopper. I was a little disappointed about Shakespeare, and I'm still bugging Cherylyn about this. I'm very eager to do Winter's Tale with her, one of my favorite plays of Shakespeare, which I think would make an incredible ballet. But obviously the COVID interrupted parts of our collaboration. But once everything gets back in shape, we invite you to join us for breakfast at the Skylight Diner on 34th Street, just on 9th across from B&H. That's where we would meet to discuss our projects and think about the future together.
Nice.
Amazing. So another thing that makes this project so special for me as a performer was that I know this project was in the making for 2 years. At least the idea was it raised 2 years, perhaps even earlier. And then it culminated to this wonderful production. It happened in late February this year. If it were even a week later that this premiered, it probably would have been canceled. So it just blows my mind. It still gives me the goosebumps to think that that could have all just been canceled, but we just made it right at the last cut. So yeah, and then this, of course, for me was the last live performance I did before the pandemic hit. So whenever I think of a live performance, I always come to this. So that's another thing. But anything else either of you want to add before I go do the screen share?
Well, just quickly, and then Cherylyn will conclude it. I just want to say that what you'll see when you see it and what you'll hear is a performance with Elly as a violinist, and Ashley Bathgate is the cellist, and Lisa Moore is the pianist. And the three of them form a special trio, which we call the Mammoth Trio. And the reason we call them the Mammoth Trio is that they're all about between 4'11" and 5'1". I think they make a very strong appearance when they get out there, but they play much bigger than they are in size. Their spiritual and musical size is immense. So they truly are musical mammoths.
Oh, thank you. I just love the name of that trio.
I'm going to tag right on to that because interestingly enough, we never heard the actual score until we were in the theater with the live musicians. And I cannot express the just tremendous inspiration that made for all of us in terms of performers and creators. I also want to give credit to my set designer, Jesse Seegers. You'll see how wonderful it is, costume designer, Christopher Metzger, and my other composer, who also has functioned for years with me as a dramaturg, Scott Killian.
All right, thank you so much, both of you. And now, should we just dive right into the music then? All right, so I'm about to screen share. Okay. And then first, I'd like to share with you the specific vignettes that these are based on. So the first one you'll hear is New York Movie. So if you just take a look at this for a moment and then imagine what the music and choreography will be to that. Okay, and then we also have Automat. This will be the second piece. So this is the other scene. All right. Thank you all so much. And shall we move on to the next piece? Where is Sabina? I see a lot of windows here, so just trying to find you. There you are. Hi.
Hi.
All right. So Sabina and I are really happy to share a world premiere with you. So literally no one in this planet has technically seen our work yet, except for the two of us. So I'm also excited because I usually am just a performer, just playing the violin part with the music that's given to me. But I was happy to be able to be in the creative process as well. So I wrote the violin part and also did the video editing in addition to playing the violin part, of course. And then Sabina is an actual gem that did everything else. She did the song, the lyrics, the piano part, and the performance of all of that. So I want to pass it on to her. So what's this song about? And tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. So Elly and I met because we lived together in Harlem for a little while, and I, write songs. It's a way of I don't know, about digesting what's happening in the world. So I wrote a couple of songs that I really wanted some violin accompaniment with, and I asked Elly to help me, and she did so beautifully with some really awesome collaborations. And so when she asked me to do this, I was so excited because we get to work together again, even though we don't live together anymore. So that was really fun for me. And this song is about, I guess, the strangely positive side effects of this very still and scary time. To be able to somehow find a little bit of peace or even some imagination or creativity in this time. That's what the song is about. And other than that, I just really hope that you guys enjoy it and that you listen to it with the same joy that gave me making it.
Yes, I feel all the same feels. Right. So Sabina, should we just share the song now?
Go do it.
All right.
This is the best thing outside, caught in a downswing. Our world is a couch fling, a traveling cruise. Your mind is turning while mine is churning. Together we're burning a hole in the truth. We can go anywhere. We can go anywhere. Sure, it's in our minds, but who says we can find some reality there? Some reality there. This is the best thought, outside caught in an onslaught, but our home is a safe spot, a hearth in a storm. What I need is you here. We know what to do here when eyes ages draw near on how to keep warm. We can do anything. We can do anything. Sure, it's just an idea, but who says that we're not really growing wings? Not really growing over countries and through faces, foreign names and familiar places, past and future blend together. We take stock of stormy weather through the quiet and empty streets. Bird song, the only thing that greets you. We have time to think of all the possibilities. wij kunnen alles zijn. Wij kunnen alles zijn. Al is het in ons hoofd als je het zelf gelooft. We can be anyone. We can be anyone. Sure, it's blind and fancy, but who says we can't see? Flight and fancy, but who says we can't see? Flight and fancy, but who says we can't see? Upward and beyond, and beyond.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope that worked all right. All right, thank you. So let me also share the link to that. Right now it was set to, or it will soon be different, but right now it's set to unlisted mode because I wanted to save this premiere for this show so that no one sees it before any of you do. But I will switch it to public after this. But now you have the link here. I just posted it in the chat window. So great. Next up, we have a solo violin piece by Joan Tower. And this is a very virtuosic piece because it was commissioned for a violin competition. And it was the Indianapolis violin competition. I can never say that in one go. And then the idea is that the contestants face a piece that they have never seen before, seen or heard before. And then that way, everyone has the same amount of duration for preparation, and we hear multiple interpretations of the same piece. And I am inviting Matt, and if Lisa's here, I'm not sure, but for now I see Matt, so I'm inviting him to the conversation. Hi, because he knows Joan Tower in person, for one thing, as a composer, but he also is part of Eighth Blackbird, and then Joan Tower is part of the board, so there's a personal connection there. I'm also so curious about how Eighth Blackbird rehearses. So Eighth Blackbird is my all-time favorite contemporary ensemble, and they are a group of 6 musicians. So the piece I played with Joan Tower is just for solo violin, which is super easy because I just play, set the video camera into audio, and it's all done. But then you have a group of 6 musicians that also need to rehearse together, and that just blows my mind of how that's possible because it was hard enough to do some duo rehearsing already. So I'm curious to know those 2 things, more about Joan Tower and also about how the rehearsal process is during a pandemic with 6 other musicians.
Well, sure. Great job so far, Elly, by the way. I have to mention that. And touched on so many topics. I'll try to dance around a little bit without taking up too much time. We'll get to Joan Tower last. How about that?
Okay, sounds good.
Great. So maybe in reverse order. The Eighth Blackbird during this time is continuing to work. We've taken on some other projects. A big one is called the Chicago Artists Workshop. It's an online presenting series. It's not an Eighth Blackbird centric initiative. It's an opportunity for us to present other artists. So we've created a performance series fairly quickly over the summer, but it's kept us busy and it's been very fulfilling. We're very excited about it. Eighth Blackbird has continued to work on its ensemble work. We're working on a new project by David Lang, based on the work of Gertrude Stein. And the director for that is going to be a fully staged work. And the director is Anne Bogart, also based in New York. And we did a remote workshop with Anne that was surprisingly successful. And it was an exchange of some recorded material, but also it was a very deep script reading, essentially. It was an early stage. There's a lot of text in that project. And then with regard to ensemble rehearsals, we're doing pretty well, actually, but we're very, very lucky. We're very lucky to work with really experienced musicians, and when they're given some rehearsal tools, they're able to take full advantage of them. So what I mean by that, as an example, is Lisa Kaplan and I, sorry, Lisa wasn't able to be here tonight, are still based in Chicago, and we created some duo recordings of the sextet material that we distribute. And so they're sort of play along videos. And another example, often what we work out in rehearsals it's not just notes, it's a lot of cueing mechanics and the gears of performing chamber music. And we can rehearse all of those things via a video as well. And it doesn't prepare an ensemble for the performance, but we've started to create what we call scratch recordings based on everybody's individual work. And what we've assembled, and this is just purely for internal preparatory purposes, it shows us that we're really far along. So what this accomplishes is when we do finally get together in person, we'll be much further along than we would have been had were we starting from scratch in person. So we feel pretty good about that. So that's the general just there, as we found ways to keep ourselves busy, and we're grateful to be able to continue working. Elly, a bit more backstory about Elly. I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. We have another initiative called the Blackbird Creative Lab, and Elly was one of our fellows, the young professionals who come to us through the program. We call them our fellows, and Elly was one, and has since gone on to do some concertizing with 8th Blackbird, in which she was exceptional and the best to work with, of course. And our touring with Elly took us to Gettysburg, and we learned about a violin position, and now Elly has a job there. So that's a wonderful feel-good story. So we're very, very proud of that. And of Elly, of course, she's extraordinary.
Oh, thank you so much.
Composer of the next piece, Joan Tower. Well, I have to make a pivot at this point because it would be egregious of me to tell you anything about Joan without asking Martin to step in and join me. The three of us go way, way back. When 8th Blackbird, when we were still students, college students, we went to the Norfolk Summer Music Festival to do a new music intensive. And our faculty at the time included Martin and Joan Tower, and we worked together then. And then some years later, Martin joined us for a program that we did in Switzerland, in which 8th Blackbird performed a composition of Martin's called My 20th Century. And that was a really informative experience. Martin gave us a remarkable coaching, and the performance was one, it was incredibly meaningful. And it was the best performance of that piece we've ever done, was after that coaching. So Martin, I want you to know I never forgot that. Yeah. Joan Tower was there also. And when 8th Blackbird started rehearsing together, it's a sextet of strings and winds and percussion. And at that time, there were certainly a lot of music for our instrumentation. There was not as much as there is now 30 years later, or whatever it is. Amazing to say that. But one of the pieces that we learned, one of the first pieces we learned was a sextet by Joan Tower called Noon Dance. And we rehearsed the heck out of that thing. And we got to Norfolk, and Joan was going to be there. And we were unbelievably excited to play the piece for Joan. And Joan is, she's one of those people who is full of life. And you know this because she lacks the filter to keep anything in. So she'll tell you whatever she thinks, you know, just blurt it out and then cackle afterward. I think everything is funny. So a huge personality, a huge heart. And we got together and she came into a rehearsal room with us and we played through this piece for her, Noon Dance. And this was another extraordinary moment that is one of my indelible memories. We played the piece for her, and she is usually so, just so outgoing and sharp-witted, and we performed from her, and she was very quiet for a few moments. And of course, when that happens, you want to think something is wrong. And then she said the last thing we really expected, and she could have said, needs some work, or it's really great, but she really surprised us because what she said was, I thought I didn't like that piece, which was her own piece. You know, she wrote it and she was unsatisfied with it. She said, I thought I didn't like this piece, and you changed my mind. And that was, I mean, what a compliment that was beyond anything we expected. So that is the kind of generous person Joan is, and she puts all of that into her music. And so I'm very thrilled to hear the next piece, as I'm sure everybody is here.
Thank you. Would Martin like to pitch in about anything you know about Joan Tower?
Well, I mean, I think that Matt has summed it up really beautifully. Joan is a person who knows her own mind and will tell you exactly what is in that mind at almost any time. She doesn't have a big filter, and she's a very remarkable creative imagination. And I've heard this piece, the solo piece before, and it is a wonderful virtuoso exploration of the violin, her understanding of the instrument, its potentiality, and the way she writes right into the heart of it is really admirable and wonderful. And thanks for Matt Tools for remembering my 20th century all those years ago. It's a great pleasure to hear that from you. Thank you.
Great, so the pressure is on for sharing this piece of my interpretation of hers. Let me screen share, and Matt, if you can please text me if there are any audio issues, since I don't have chat window access. All right, here it is. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, thank you. I was worried my instrument was going to break that whole time, but it didn't, so I'm glad. But, all right, so this is now the last piece, I guess. This went by really fast. So I would like to introduce Scott Ordway here with me. Yes, so he was actually my dissertation advisor when I was completing my doctorate at Rutgers, and it was such a pleasure to work with him, not only in a research capacity, but also in a performance capacity during the pandemic. So if you would love to, like to explain a little bit about the piece for us, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
You're a little bit soft, actually.
Help if I come closer to the computer?
Yeah, this is much better. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Elly, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you all. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. So this summer I was, like all of us, stuck inside and decided that I would create a series of pieces called Interiors in response to this feeling. And each of these pieces was a short musical film where I composed the music and created the concept for the video at the same time, so that the film and video were both part of a single creative impulse. And one of the things that I felt the strongest lack of this summer was the possibility of traveling and engaging with people in different parts of the world. So the first interior that I did, I worked with a Canadian mezzo-soprano and a violinist in Germany. And then the second, I worked with a cellist in Paris. And then for the third one, I had just finished working with Elly on her doctoral dissertation, and she was in Osaka in Japan for the summer. And I asked her if she would be interested in collaborating on this piece. And I was so thrilled that she was interested in doing that. There is a long, long tradition in classical music of using birdsong as inspiration, from Vivaldi through Beethoven and Mahler, Messiaen, even a contemporary composer like Rautavaara. In Finland, everyone's used birdsong. So there's nothing new about using birds as part of a classical composition. But right outside my studio, which is on the third floor of a building, there's a big tree, and I cannot get away from the sound of these birds, which normally I think of as quite a positive thing. But all summer I was trying to use my space here as a recording studio, and I couldn't get any clean recording that didn't have birdsong in the background. So for all these compositions that I was recording at home, I found birdsong becoming a part of them, whether I wanted to or not. And so for the piece with Elly, I found myself wondering, I wonder what the birds outside your studio sound like in Japan, and how those might be different from the birds that I'm hearing outside my studio in Philadelphia. And so I had the idea for the piece that perhaps we could help our birds talk to one another using this medium of technology and socially distanced recording. So to create the piece, I asked Elly to go outside of her home where she was in Osaka and make field recordings of the animals that she heard in her environment there. And I did the same thing in Philadelphia. And so I started with a large amount of source material of field recordings in Osaka and field recordings in Philadelphia, and loaded those into my digital audio workstation and started to analyze the difference between the acoustic properties of the landscape where Elly was and the acoustic properties of the landscape where I am. And then tried to create a piece which would explore that contrast and use those two differing, very different sounds as sonic colors for a piece. So I then composed the piece that you'll hear in response to the sound of the birds and frogs outside Elly's studio and the birds outside my studio. So in some ways the birds spoke first, and then I responded to what I heard. The other thing I was interested in with this piece is exploring the possibilities and not just the limitations of this format that we're all working in nowadays. And one of the possibilities is that rather than writing a solo piece for one violinist, I can write a solo piece and ask Elly to record multiple versions of herself performing. So at certain moments in the composition, you'll hear Elly's violin becomes 2 violins. And then at some moments it becomes 3 or 5 or 10. But it doesn't make a big deal out of it. And it's not really a piece for 10 violins. It's really a piece for 1 violin. But from time to time, I just wanted a few extra notes. And usually when you're writing for a concert hall, you don't have that luxury. Either you're writing a duet and you have to write a duet, or it's a solo and you write a solo. But you can't write a solo, but like just from time to time, help yourself to a couple extra notes here and there. It's a luxury that doesn't make any sense under the normal conditions of performance. But here I felt free to just kind of be capricious and say, okay, in measure 87, I want you to play a chord instead of just 1 note. And so you just record it 3 times. So you hear Elly's violin doing a little bit more than would be otherwise possible. And then Elly and I both went out with our cameras and we shot very simple footage of the places where we were. So Elly sent sort of test shots and I looked at them and we chose which would be the best. And then we chose locations in Philadelphia and locations in Osaka, which kind of had a visual, which worked well together visually and then formed part of the video. So you'll see both the insides of our studios and the outsides of our studios while you hear our performance, as well as the acoustic dimension of the landscape that surrounded those studios. Elly, I'm curious, what was it like? I haven't really had a chance to ask you this, but I might as well ask it to you now in front of this, in this context. Our hosts asked us to be informal and chatty, so maybe I thought I would just put it to you. What was your experience of doing this project? Did you think it was, what was your reaction when I said, do you mind going and recording some frogs?
Oh, I thought it was actually perfect because the dissertation I worked on was Olivier Messiaen, a composer who actually worked with birds and imitated the sounds of birds through music notation, but also thought birds were like the first musical masters that really just, taught us more than, the music experts could in some ways. And I thought it was so great to be able to put this all in one project and in a modernized setting. So for me, like having a connection to my dissertation project and composer, and the fact that you specifically were my advisor for that, just felt like so many parallels. So in that way, it's like this couldn't be more perfect. And this would have been impossible if I were still in my apartment in New York, because when do you ever hear bird sounds in Hell's Kitchen? So in that way, it was nice to be in a rural part of Osaka where capturing this was possible. So the timing of it was just it was so perfect. I can't even I don't even know how to describe it. So I'm just so glad you asked me and that you invited me into this wonderful project. So.
I don't know if you had the same experience, but I know for myself, every time I walk out of my house now and I hear these birds, I hear them in a different way, because I hear them as part of, I mean, having sort of picked them apart and thought about them as an aesthetic object and thought about them as part of a music composition. Now, when I just hear them, I'm hearing this piece. So I don't know if you had that same experience.
Exactly, especially in the morning.
Whether it changed the way you hear that little stretch of the world.
Right, it's one of those things where I just never paid attention to it until now, but now I just have a different kind of appreciation for it, and I could even hear the song that you made in my head as I'm walking out, especially in the morning. I take it personally as a morning piece, like it's so fitting for that. And I mean, we're at 9 p.m. right now, but I think it'll still work. But in that way, I just thought it just captures the environment that we're in so well, and it doesn't matter where in the world you are. So in that way, it's just such a universal idea, and I love that about it. So
something else that people might be interested to listen for as they hear the piece is, in the same way that I was able to use technology to sort of subtly augment your violin by layering 2 or 3 violins from time to time, I did the same thing with the birds and the frogs, because I really wanted them to participate in the musical architecture. I wanted them to be a part of the narrative of the piece. So as you listen to it, and it's quite short, you'll hear moments when Elly is making a crescendo, you'll hear that the birds and the frogs follow suit and kind of respond in kind. And as the piece, well, I'll leave it at that, but you'll hear the birds and the frogs behaving in ways which they wouldn't otherwise. They're really participating. They're reading from the same score that we are, in a way. So, Elly, would you like me to share from my computer?
yes, why not?
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you everyone so much. Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Charlie. Do we have any questions so far? Do we have,
We-
what's the game plan for
No questions in here, but I want to make an announcement about this because I want to apologize to everybody about the problem that we had with linking to YouTube. That won't happen again. In the next salon that we're going to have, we're not going to charge anything for it. There won't be tickets. We're going to send you the link so you can choose links that you can choose either YouTube, Facebook, or you can join us right here on the Zoom platform. And the next salon is going to be on Saturday, the 5th of December. It'll be the Black Oak Ensemble. And Black Oak Ensemble, we've had them before. They're fantastic. They've been Grammy nominated in the past. And the salon will be free. Yeah, but the only caveat on that is that we'll only have room for 100 people on this in the Zoom room. So we'll send out an invitation with the Zoom link.
I'm going to interrupt you a
Yeah.
minute, my darling Charlie. So it's a violin, viola, and cello. They're amazing. They have been recorded through CD Records, which is the CEO is Jim Ginsburg, RBG's son. And they have had wonderful recordings in the past. One was Silenced Voices, which are the musicians who died in the concentration camps, the composers who died in the concentration camps. It was their music, an amazing CD that CD Records put out, and really exciting. We hope all of you will join us.
Tell her, here it is.
But yeah, Charlie is putting up the image now. And we just regret that, unfortunately, the company that we worked with to try and bring it to all of you was not what we were hoping they would be. So our next salon will be free, and we hope all of you will join us for an amazing, wonderful evening of music. And another evening after this phenomenal. Elly, this was spectacular. I loved the composers, the contemporary composers, the dance involved as well. And the singing, just absolutely delightful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us and for making the magic work.
All the participants, Scott, Matthew, Sabina, Cherylyn. I left my composer friend out. Martin. I apologize. To you, Martin. And Elly, we can't send you enough hugs and kisses for the Elly we love.
Virtual hugs.
And we really appreciate you doing this. I should tell everyone that this whole event from start to finish, when we at least went on and said, hi, we're here in Chicago live, has been recorded in full. So we will be sending out, or at least publicizing on the Chicago Salon site, how you can access the recording to the whole event. And for those of you who had problems getting on, again, I apologize like mad. This is something that we thought we had solved, and it's like we didn't. Anyway, somebody's trying to get in.
Well, in the meanwhile, I wanted to add that as you saw from Sabina and I's creation, I do a little bit of video editing. So what I'm going to do is actually take the whole video of this concert and plug in the original videos and take out some of the technological issue moments so that it looks like one long stream of talking and performing in a seamless manner. So I'm absolutely happy to post that for the Chicago Salons website, so that if you want to access this again, share it with your friends that couldn't be here tonight, please do so. And the video will be high quality audio, video all across the board. So that'll be.
Let's do this, and I don't know, maybe we might letting the genie out of the bottle, but if any of you who have joined us in the chat in this on the salon or in the Zoom want to unmute yourself and ask a question, please do so. Just identify yourself, say who you are, where you're calling from, and what's your question. Please feel free to ask a question.
Hey, this is Teresa, and I have my mother in Los Angeles, my mother-in-law in Buffalo. They're listening in, but I'm just curious, like, how long does it take for you to like devise? I mean, this sounds like a lot of work, especially this last one with all the recordings and the birds and the. How long does it actually take for you to put something together?
All right. Yeah, I guess the one that was created during the pandemic. So you mentioned about the piece with the birds. So Scott, how long did we work on this again? How long did this take?
Well, this feels like about 500 years ago because it was pandemic time, July. So who knows? Um, but it's definitely time consuming. We had to kind of agree on the plan and do the field recordings, and there's quite a lot of back and forth. And then I record the piano part, then I make a sort of metronome track that I send to Elly. Elly records her part, sends it back. Then we have to do the video. But I think maybe 2 months went by between when we first agreed to do this and when we've released it. What do you think, Elly? Maybe 6 weeks?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it felt like a portion of the summer. So it was
August. Yeah, so maybe a couple months.
right. So it felt like a perfect summer.
Things I love about this, Elly and Scott, is that in a time we're all feeling very anxious and everyone's hunkering down at home, you guys have made the world alive again through bird sounds, which are like, eternal forever in this universe. And then the two of you coordinating, going back and forth. It's just so joyful and so positive in this very tense time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Do we have any other questions out there?
Anyone else want to unmute themselves? It's okay. No question is stupid.
All questions are great.
All questions are great.
Well, if there are no more questions, what I would like to do is give everybody a big virtual hug. And Elly, we love you. And to Sabina, to
Scott, to
Matthew, to
Cherylyn, Martin.
Cherylyn, thank you so much for participating, and I appreciate your tolerating our getting technologically adept on doing these things. Again, the next one we're going to do is we're going to give people access to both YouTube and Facebook for free. But it will also give you access to, if you want to join right here in the Zoom room, we'll do it that way.
And then what I'd like to say about the learning we did tonight, so the 3 ways we learn, and we've discussed this when we pre-performance, is we learn auditorily, visually, and kinesthetically. And we had all of those wonderful areas of learning in an amazing way tonight, in a very artistic way, and how lucky we are to have that.
So with that, good evening, everybody. In about 10 seconds, I will close the meeting, and love you all. Everybody stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy. Thank you all so much.
Okay.